Are you stealing money from your employees? Wait, what? Stealing money from my employees? What are you talking about? Well, there's a little thing called wage theft, and that is the term that we use if an employer violates FLSA laws about minimum wage and overtime. My name is Christina president of Valor Payroll Solutions, and we help small business owners with their payroll. So you'll find a lot of information on our channel about exempt versus non-exempt, FLSA rules, employee versus contractor, and we really try and inform business owners about what they should be doing. But one of the things that we don't touch on often enough is the consequence for non-compliance. So when it comes to Fair Labor Standards Acts or FLSA rules, this is the government agency that dictates minimum wage at the federal level and overtime rules also at the federal level. If you are found to be in violation of these rules, there can be civil penalties, criminal prosecution, and even jail time if you're found to have done this more than once. So, of course, as with most things involved in payroll, if you have done something willfully, meaning on purpose, you're purposefully not paying employees the wages that they are due, the penalties are going to be more severe. But at the end of the day, you are still subject to $1,000 in civil penalties for each violation. And if you're found to have willfully violated FLSA laws, that can lead to a criminal conviction, fines up to $10,000, and even jail time. So although it is not necessarily common to have been audited or fined or been found guilty of these types of things, it is possible, if you're not paying your employees correctly, to be subject to an audit. Now, I'm sure you've heard me say before, there are no payroll police, meaning there are not people going around auditing business records just for funsies. But what happens more often than not is an employee makes a complaint to the state agency or the federal Department of Labor, which then can prompt an investigation. So if you are investigated, they're going to ask for proof of what you're doing and why. So they're going to look at payroll records, job duties, pay stubs. And at the end of the day, again, if you are found to not be paying employees correctly by either not be paying minimum wage or overtime, there can be some hefty penalties involved. Now, these violations can occur simply if you're just not doing payroll correctly. For example, if you are on a biweekly pay frequency and you're using 80 hours in a pay period as the threshold for overtime instead of 40 hours for each work week, you might be shorting your employees' overtime. If you have improperly classified an employee as exempt, meaning not overtime eligible, but they either are not performing exempt job duties or their salary is not sufficient to meet FLSA requirements, then that person should be classified as non-exempt, track their hours, and be paid overtime if it's worked. Another common way to violate these laws is if you are misclassifying an employee as an independent contractor, because an employee has many more benefits and protections under the law than an independent contractor does. So, at the end of the day, I know that we are kind of beating a dead horse here with exempt versus non-exempt, employee versus contractor, overtime rules, but it really does matter. And even though the probability of being audited is not necessarily high, the consequences for non-compliance are sufficient enough that it should, I don't want to say scare, but it should be enough to make you want to at least know the laws. And if you are going to do something that isn't necessarily compliant, at least know that it's not and be willing to take that risk on intentionally rather than just going about payroll blindly and doing things unintentionally that could be incorrect. As always, if you have questions, feel free to drop them below, or you can find us online at valorpayrollsolutions.com. And online, you can also reach out and schedule a free consultation where we are more than happy to sit down with you and answer any questions that you may have, no strings attached. At the end of the day, I'm a small business owner as well, and I'm really here to see other small businesses succeed because I know how incredibly challenging it is to do what we do. Small business owners employ millions of Americans, and we are here to support them. So, again, this is not just silly rules. There are severe consequences for noncompliance, and we just want to ensure that business owners have the information that they need to make good choices for their business.